Okay, everybody, this is Mr. Ainsworth, and we're going to learn how to square a number ending in 5. Whether you have a 2 or 3-digit number, it really doesn't matter. It's all done the same way. It's just it gets harder as you get to the triple digit numbers, especially when they get big. But we're going to start small as we always do and show you using the smaller values, all right, the smaller numbers, so it's easy to do in your head, and so that you understand the steps. And then after you understand steps, well, then you just takes a whole lot of practice to get good, especially when you get to the triple digit numbers. Because it involves the other techniques, which I'll talk about here as we go. So let's take a number like 35 squared and learn how to square 35, which obviously ends in a 5. See that 5 right there? Boom. Okay, so the question is, what is it? Okay, that's the big question. So step one, let's step it out. And of course, I always write down the steps so you can, hear it and see it in a lesson here. And then afterwards, we just do it, man. We just do it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to multiply the tens digit by the next consecutive integer first. Okay, so let's write that down. We're going to multiply the tens digit by the next consecutive integer. Okay, by the next consecutive integer. Okay, so if you don't know what I mean by that, let's take a look at that right now. All right, so this is the ones right here, and this is the tens. And everybody should know that because we're talking about second grade math right here. And you guys are seniors. Well, most of you. So uh, you guys should know that the 5 is in the ones digit and the 3 is in the tens digit. So we're going to take the 3 and multiply it by the next consecutive integer, which is 3 plus 1 or 4. All right, so we're going to take 3 times 4. There's your next consecutive integer, and obviously you get 12. Ooh, that was tough. All right, so that's your step one. Step two, we're going to take 5, okay, which is the ones digit here. We're going to square the ones digit. So square 5, okay, which is the ones digit. All right, you should know that. 5 squared is 5 times 5, or 25. All right, that's easy. All right, so there's your step two. Step three, believe it or not, this is the last step. What you're going to do is compose, which means put together. Okay, compose or put together, that's what it means. The results. The, oops, let me spell it right. The results. And I'm talking about the previous results. All right, so what we have is that we have the first result's 12, the second result's 25, and you put them together. So 12 and 25. Here's the first result, there's the second result. All right, so I'm talking about these two. Take this one, and you get, whoops, let me change the color here. All right, you get your results. All right, put the two results together, you get 1225, and you could check it here, guys. Here, let me just show you. I'll do it for you just because, that's the type of guy I am. All right, you can check you. What I would usually do when I practice is I have a calculator nearby, and I go through the lesson and I practice to get good, just like you do. And I have a calculator nearby, and so I practice the right way on paper or in my mind, and then I check with the calculator and I'm right. So I'm starting up my TI-84 here. You can get your, it doesn't matter what calculator, whether you have a basic one or a TI-84, it really doesn't matter here. Just go ahead and bust it out. Take 35, hit the X squared button, and then enter. Or you can take 35 times 35 and do it the old-fashioned way. You'll get 1225. All right, 1,225. So it's a three-step process. You're going to take the ones digit and then multiply by the next consecutive number, and then square the 5, which is always going to be 25, right? Attach the two or compose the two, and you get 1225. That's all there is to it. Believe it or not, it's that simple. The only difficulty comes in is when you have a triple digit number, as you're going to find out. All right, so let's do it again. Let's do it a few times actually, since this is a training video. So let's say you have 45 squared. You're trying to figure out what that is. So first mental step, all right, 4, you take the tens digit. 4 times 5, you multiply by the next consecutive number, which is 5, and you multiply them and you get 20. Step 1. Step 2, 5 squared is 25, and that will always be 25, right? And then step 3, you compose the two numbers here, and so the answer, all right, so 45 squared is equal to 2025, and you can check it. Let's do it. Okay, so 45 squared, All right, look at that. It's 2025. It's that simple. The only difficulty comes in is when you have a three-digit number. What do? All right, let me just do it one more time. So 75 squared. So step one, take 7 times 8, the next consecutive number. You always start with the tens digit here. Here's the tens digit here. So you always take the tens digit times the next number. And here the 7 is in the tens digit, so you take 7 times 8, which is 56. You take 5 squared, which is 25, and you compose the two. So in 3 steps, you are done, 5,625. Let's check it. So 75 squared, boom, 5,625, like I said. Okay, so dealing with two-digit numbers that end in 5 squared is easy. All right, so let's talk about how do you do it with a triple digit number. So let's take a look at that and let's do a few of these. Okay, so let's suppose that you have, oh, I don't know, 105 squared, okay? Let's start there. So you're going to take the 10 now. You're going to take this number here, you're going to take 10 and multiply by this next consecutive number, which is 11, you get 110. Second step, 5 squared is still 25, it always is. Step 3, you compose the two, so you get this number here. And how do you say that? It's 11,025. Let's check it. Let's clear the calculator. Let's take 105, let's square it. Look at that, 11,025. So it works all the time. However, it gets harder as this double-digit number increases, as you're going to find out. So let's take a little bit bigger number and show you how to approach it, or at least how I approach it. I mean, there's different ways, but here's one way. Okay, so let's take 165 squared. Okay, step one, you got to multiply 16 times 17. Okay, now here involves a problem that's going to require us to go back to what we did a few lessons ago, and I'm going to use the addition method, and I'll show you why, because we know our squares. So let me see if I can find, yeah, there's the addition method. So I'm going to split a double digit number into a sum of two numbers here, and I'm going to use this method that we learned earlier. Okay, so on this one here, I'm going to rewrite this as 16 times 16 plus 1. And the reason why is because when you distribute through, this is 16 squared plus 16. And since we already memorized our squares up to 400, or up to 20 squared in the last lesson, I know that 16 squared is 256 plus 16, and that is 250 plus 10 is 260 plus 12, 272. So I can do that in my head. All right, so I get 272. Step 2, 5 squared is always 25. So you know you're always going to attach 25 to it. Always. So when you compose the results, 27225, put a comma in, 27,225. Let's check it. So we take 165, square it. Look at that, 27,225. Okay. Now, if you're going Ainsworth, hey, that's the 5 examples is not enough. Let me do it again. Let me take 175 squared and do it quickly here. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is I have to take 17 times 18. But that's fairly simple because I know that 17 times 18 is 17 times 17 plus 1. So when I distribute through, I get 17 times 17, which is 289, plus 17, which is a total of 280 plus 10, 290, plus 16 is 306. So I get 306 in my mind, and then I just attach a 25 to it. Why? Because that's what the step is. Step 2 is always square 5. Okay, step 3 is compose the two, so it's 306, end it with a 25 all the time, and you get 30,625. All right, and let's check it. So let's take 175, and let's square this bad boy, and check it, 30,625. See, I can do all that in my head. So squaring a number, either it's 2 or 3 digits in your mind, is possible, as long as the numbers don't get too big and as long as you have also a lot of practice. Okay, things like this and skills like this don't come easily. They come with a ton of practice and doing things correctly from the beginning, starting from lesson one all the way to this is lesson 14B. All right. So you have to practice your previous techniques well enough so that you can use the new techniques. Like 17 squared should be mastered. And if you don't know 17 squared, that's 289, then you can't do it. Okay, I do. And that's why in the previous lesson, I had you guys perfect your perfect squares. Perfect squares are like 17 squared. We talked about that. That's 289. This right here, you have to commit to memory. All right, you got to commit certain things to memory, like your basic multiplication tables and your squares. Other than that, if you have to, well, there's another lesson later on. I'll show you how to score 17 a different way so you don't have to commit it to memory. All right, you can do it another way. But you got to know some kind of basics and rely upon some kind of skills, and that involves a lot of practice and being taught and trained in the right way. So make sure you're thinking about things properly, okay? And I'll see you in my next lesson. This is Ainsworth. I'm out of here.